anticipating. I was still telling you all how the future is unknown. We teach students how to make scenarios for the future. But sometimes if you want to make bold scenarios, you have to really be wild and in your thinking and think outside of the box. So we try and stimulate students to think outside of the box. They keep a learning journal, so students are also keeping a weekly reflection on what they covered in the course, step by step describing and monitoring what they've been learning. And they can do that freely with either mind maps or also multimedia, videos, art. We don't really care as long as we know as a teacher standing in the background that there is a learning development. What they end up developing is these building blocks. Some have been pre-developed by other generations of students related to ethics, happiness, well-being, the value of open questions. But there's others that are more related to maybe consumption, conscious consumption, planned obsolescence, the fact that a lot of the product that we use are designed to fail after a couple of years or become redundant, and other more global topics like sustainable development goals. What happens next is that I will use some of these building blocks and present them, use them in my teaching. Students that follow the course this year will be the facilitators of the new generation of students, but you have also a regular inflow of students that come from the previous generation to the new generation, which also helps developing a community of students. One of my goals when I became the director of this program is that I wanted to work a lot on the community of students outside of the classroom, and there is a very strong sense of community in the program, which I'm very happy about. As students, really a lot of them indicated they wanted to volunteer to be facilitators. How did the students react? A lot were very happy with this approach. It was completely different. Imagine you studied, a student came to me after one of these lectures. He said, again, German students in this case, in my German university, I was not allowed to ask questions during my physics classes. The lecturer was writing questions on a blackboard with chalk. Is it okay to ask questions? Where is the teacher when I'm doing these critical sustainability seminars? So that's what I meant about handling freedom. Sometimes is not as easy for some students. But many, reflecting back at the end of the course after the struggle, they really appreciated this way of thinking creatively about sustainability and really being more aware of their place in the world. And the idea is that by doing this, by shifting or adapting your study program, you also can engage students to be more active in society. So teaching for sustainability with a sense with an active sense that you can change the status quo. It's also what is important to keep in mind when you are thinking of sustainability in study programs. It's not about learning about the water cycle or learning about behavioral changes, but it's also about talking to others and having a democratic approach also to sustainability. The answer to this question, it's up to you. It's a rhetorical question, but by studying them, they want to be much more active than only 5 years ago. Students want to work hands-on. They want to be connected with the field, with the companies in which they think they want to work, but also connected to society at large. Some of them are activism. Some of them go and glue themselves on the highway to the asphalt, of course. Some others are taking their activism in a different way. They are volunteering in society. So you have to be conscious that your population of students is everly changing. And last year I organized an interesting event in which I connected my students, university students, with high school students. And the topic of that event was climate depression. This was brought to me by one student of mine that became a high school teacher, and she said, well, we should talk about this because I'm teaching 13, 14 years old, and for one they hate Greta Thunberg. They think she's a loser, that they don't want to be associated in any way with someone like that. They think that they've heard all their life about sustainability. They're very fed up. They don't want to, they think that their peers don't want to act. They don't have any energy to act anymore. But there are some others are very much activists and they're very active in society. How do you? And some are very much depressed. They don't know how to cope with these things. So I brought them back, and there was a very interesting dynamic discussion between the university students and their peers from high school, and teaching again and learning together about what more makes us hopeful about the future. And I think we need, that's why it's been inspiring to be invited here to listen, even though I've been only here today. And I've been ill-prepared, admittedly, about the whole AMI word, but the whole Montessori word. Aside from the fact that my daughter goes to a Montessori school and her favorite subject is cosmic education. But before that, I was very much skeptical of the whole thing, and I'm still not completely embracing it, because I'm scared. I come from a place in which I had to sit down and listen to the authority. So, but I take comfort from the fact that my daughter comes back home very happy every day. So. Let's talk. Happy to hear questions from you. And I think there should be much more of an interaction between the later years that haven't been covered much by the scholarship. And people like me, they're working by intuition and thinking without reading the books about pedagogy and about training and about what works. Thanks a lot.
First question. For someone who doesn't know a lot about Montessori, super impressive. And the way that actually you're teaching is very much, with the Montessori values and the Montessori approach. So again, for having done so much, it's like in my head now. And my question actually now is, you're teaching about sustainability, but a lot of what the approach that you're having can be applied to any subject, or is it specific to sustainability?
No, the approach could be applied to any subject. I embraced it for sustainability because I came from a place in which I thought, okay, we have this set curriculum in which, okay, it's important to have programming skills, it's important to learn about giving a presentation, but those have been trained a lot, and reproducing information that we can now partially delegate to an artificial intelligence. That shouldn't be the core of our program. But I think indeed the approach of collaborate with students to develop knowledge, I think it's a functional to many study programs, and I think it's an opportunity to develop new material. It takes away some burden from teachers that have sometimes lack of time because they're not paid as much as they should be paid. They're running out of time. They're living under pressure, and this allows also to have an inflow of new knowledge and new methods as well. They're more innovative. They're closer to the needs of students as well.
If I may just add, actually, in a world of AI, that's the sort of critical thinking that we need to develop. Because otherwise, the top-down old approach is obsolete. I can definitely program that.
And also, very much my approach, or the approach of these facilitators in the classroom is very much analog. It's pen and paper, drawing, acting, and using as little technology as possible. So we're really going back to the basics of visualizing and talking and engaging with one another rather than necessarily using an interface.
That's a great question. You talked about artificial intelligence, but you said it basically revolves around well-being, feeling well with yourself and others. But what if the artificiality can also do artificial love and artificial appreciation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to an extent, I think I recently saw a short documentary about it, about some humans deciding to have artificial love or artificial interactions with a chatbot or with artificial intelligence that was trained to be loving and caring. I don't know. That's why we have been so successful, and we are in the billions on this planet, because we are collaborators. They say that Neanderthaler was much smarter than we are, and we killed them out. because we are collaborative, we are social, and we like a good story. So I think that will stay.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate what you were doing because, as I think as the OK referred to, the fourth plane isn't talked about very much, but it's part of the continuum. Mm-hmm. So my question to you, I have two. One is, how did your peers at the university see what you were doing? And number two, sometimes I have this thought of, what if we could talk to university professors and just give them a crash course on the planes of development? What do you think would happen?
Yeah, I think that number two is very important. That's why I said let's talk, because I think there will be a lot of people that will be inspired by trying and moving away from the standard approach to teaching, which likely also we learned a lot during the pandemic times, where we were transferred to this virtual world that all of a sudden was practically efficient, but it took away all the joy in teaching. It took away all the joy from learning as well. So that at that place we decided, also collectively at university, I was sitting in all these meetings in which we were deciding whether we would record lecture, whether we would stream lecture, and streaming was killed immediately because no one liked it. No one liked to watch anything online. And now we have to think a bit harder. How do we bring people back to the campus? And that's the added value is this kind of approaches. The added value is having a community, having activities on the side. And your first question.
How did your peers?
Yeah, how did you? I work in an interdisciplinary program. And often the way I sold it to them is that you have these people coming from all sorts of disparate disciplines. You need to have a place for them to practice interdisciplinarity. So that was my label. This is the place where they practice interdisciplinarity, and this is a core skill that we need to train. And then on the side, I injected some more radical thinking into there.
Thank you so much for your lecture. You briefly mentioned, and I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on it, on the fact that there is knowledge that has been developed about sustainability from indigenous communities. And you briefly said, and I want to hear more about that it is hard to at times quantify within our Western standard, especially those that are constructed within academia, which is very much of a Western construct, that it's hard to assess and evaluate the work that is being done in these communities, and yet you want to try to integrate it. Am I understanding it correctly? I was wondering if you can expand a little bit on that.
Yeah. The integrating is a process, but the way students brought it to us was multifaceted. The students thought, okay, the knowledge, the scholars we learn from are mostly coming from one part of the world. So we are ignoring a big part of the scholarship. Can we do something about that? The other thing is, in a broader sense, the whole discussion around decolonizing knowledge, decolonizing university scholarship, and bringing other perspectives to the table that are not, as you labeled them, the Western perspectives. And now there is all the discussion, it expands then into climate justice. Parts of the world are disproportionately affected by climate change, and those are countries in the southern hemisphere, but also countries in the northern hemisphere. And how do you account when you are designing policies for sustainability? How do you take care that you don't have one size fits all? And how do you make sure you have a just approach to an inclusive approach to sustainability? So from the point of view of the students, this was not only about the indigenous knowledge that was missing, but also about other aspects that they care about. I have colleagues that sit in the international panels from the United Nations, the EP-BEST, for instance, the international panel on biodiversity and ecosystem services. And there were very heated discussion about definitions. People left the room crying. And that was the first time indigenous communities were invited to relabel this ecosystem services concept to something that would be different and more inclusive. And there was really heated discussion about the role of nature, as I was mentioning before, nature as mother. So this kind of sentiments have been growing in the past. And also, what you have to sometimes notice as a study program or as a research institution, you don't have all the knowledge in-house. So if you keep on directly changing the study program and putting me teaching about indigenous knowledge on sustainability, we would have a very superficial discussions, meaning the students and I. So it's about understanding. And now I have brought in a scholar from the Faculty of Governance and Global Affairs of Leiden University that has much of a vision and a research scholarship on that topic. So exciting times.
Yeah, we have time, I think, for 2 more questions. Yeah?
Okay. Are you keeping track of all the dynamics which are going on in the classroom, or no?
No,
so
I
you're not doing observations.
No, I don't observe. Yeah. I have an occasional talk with the facilitators.
Okay.
And I make sure everything is going fine. At the beginning, when I first started this experiment, students would show up to class late, for instance, which they wouldn't do to a regular classroom, but just because the fellow students were facilitating the classroom. At the beginning, there was this hierarchy-free environment, and then the facilitators would signal to me, and I keep on having a discussion both with the students and the facilitators, but externally, I don't join the class.
Okay. Thank you.
Last question? One final question? Any volunteers?
Yes, I wanted to know about the pillar of learning to do as opposed to learning to know.
Yeah.
Do you deal with that? You know, the UNESCO pillars of learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to work with others and live with others. And I wondered how did you involve them, if they're coming from all those different disciplines, in doing things together? Or do you?
Yeah, we do. We have a part of the learning process is related to group work, in which they have to do something and develop something together. But we also have at the beginning of the study program, they're trained in the foundational skills of the field of industrial ecology, which is a scientific field that has a global community of scholars. So it's a well-defined field. So you come in. And there are some modules, including mine, in which you get the basics. My course is about the object of study. Some others are more related to, the planet. So, and then they work together to developing a product. We have also something that's called, in the second year, a sustainability challenge, in which we work with international organizations, with companies, with small, big institutions that work as an external commissioner, and then an interdisciplinary group of students work with them to solve a sustainability challenge that they experience in the real world. So we open up the study program also to the outside world with these sustainability challenges as well. So they learn to do also by being exposed to a real challenge that's faced by the Environmental Protection Agency or the Ministry of Environment or global companies as well.
And the example I was thinking of was learning from the biomimicry, where nature actually has found solutions, not only to growth but to degrowth.
Yeah.
And building on something that is less interventionist in terms of outside potential negative influence.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, thanks everybody for your attention and your very pertinent questions, and thank you for fielding them so very nicely. I think Chiara has...
Oh yeah, thanks a lot.